What's up? What's up? Idaho4. Let's talk about it. So, a lot of people are talking about the leak from law enforcement in the case right now. And I just wanted to make a video about the initial leak from law enforcement that I feel is responsible for the driving force into what happened 2022 at the King Road house. And I was watching a video last week from Chris McDonough, and he was talking about Xana's mother and how there's no way she can be a confidential informant and she couldn't have took down the Fetty Bros and this and that. But law enforcement have been turning street level users and street level dealers to build high profile uh, rug trafficking cases for a very long time. That is the groundwork. That is where they start. They start flipping people. And they have taken down a lot of high level people that way. And if he was honest, he would tell you that. But he has his own narrative to push. And but anyway, there's another case that happened 2024 in Arkansas of last year. And it involves a woman that law enforcement was using as a confidential informant who she had a couple charges on her. And I'm going to directly compare that case to the Idaho4 because there are a lot of similarities in it. And law enforcement is directly responsible for the horrific unaliving of this woman. And they are corrupt. And I'm going to prove it. I'm going to expose it. And if you stick with me to the end of this video, you'll have another case to be pissed off about. And you know what? Let's just do a little deep dive and get right into it. And stick with me, and I'll show you how people that have friends or family um, up the chain in the political realm of things, how they can get away with things that normal people can't. Maybe someone like a Mr. Farley. But we'll just make some comparisons, and y'all let me know what you think at the end of this thing. So let's just get started. So this is Mrs. Troy Strope, and her body was found on the side of the road in a plastic bin on February 20th, 2024. And she lived in Forest City, Arkansas. This is the man, one Michael Lacey, that they arrested for her unaliving. And to understand the events that took place that led to this tragedy, we got to go back and look at a couple things. So let's do that. This is the warrant for Mr. Lacey. Let's see. 3rd day, February 2024. Delivery of Schedule 1 controlled substance, METH, Class B felony, another substance, a hydro, Class B felony, possession of DRUG, paraphernalia, Class B felony, use of a communication device. I don't know what cell phones are illegal in Arkansas, I'm assuming. And let's look at this right here. Okay, this is the PCA. I wonder how they got to Mr. Lacey here. I wonder if they used an informant. Let's see. During the week ending November 5th, 2023, Detective Sergeant Gracie was contacted by CI 2020-00 Severance in reference to making a controlled buy from Michael Lacey, aka Mick. We got a gangbanger. Look out for Mick here. Okay, so I want to point out something. This little CI number, 2020-007, that is what is called illegal. It is illegal to put any identifying numbers again, next to a confidential informant's number in any documents or, well, at least any documents that the defendant's hands are going to get, they're going to get their hands on. So that makes me wonder right there. That's a red flag. That should have never been in there. And I wonder if a certain person or people, and this is just me speculating here, I wonder if that was told to whoever was typing this up to make sure we can figure out who this person is. And with that being said, let's listen to Mrs. Strope's aunt, who did an interview. I can't remember who did it, but you'll see in the video. And let's listen to what she says, and listen to what she says about who Mr. Lacy is related to, and let's take a listen to that.
And you believe that is why they're not sharing more information?
Absolutely. I believe that Lacy started the killing. There were a bunch of people involved before she was dead. And the reason they have only charged Lacy and the other two gentlemen, which is Corey Anderson and Willie Smith, they charged them on the back end as abuse of a corpse and tampering with evidence. And the reason they haven't charged them with anything else is because they would have to make Lacy's charge capital 1, which would give him the death penalty, which we were told by the prosecutor will never happen.
Why?
And we believe that it's because his mother is a quorum peace justice of the peace in the county, and his stepfather is a mayor in the county, and therefore the power overrules the justice.
One question about that. If there is this idea of protecting Lacy, was he the target of, in your opinion, was he the target of the investigation that Troy was a part of? Was she supposed to be providing information about Lacy, or was she looking into other individuals? I guess that's the confusion, right? Were law enforcement really using Troy to get information about Lacy, which again would kind of be inconsistent with this idea of they don't want to go after him?
So there were 5 guys that had the same similar charges and that had that same CI. I don't think he was picked out alone.
Okay.
I believe he got caught up in it. And I believe that he was so furious that when he found out, he was making an example of her to say, if this is what you do, this is what's going to happen to you, because they cut her up and put her in a tote and put her on the side of the road for everyone to find.
So according to Troy's aunt in that interview, it sounds like Michael Lacy has quite the connections. It reminds me of a guy in Idaho that I know of that has a few connections as well. I see you, Farley. But you may be asking, just because of that CI number was placed next to the confidential informant information in the document, how did Mr. Lacy figure out exactly who that was? Well, let me show you. So Troy's aunt mentioned that there was 5 other suspects that was arrested, along with Michael Lacy, that was involved in the unalivings. Well, here's another one of them, and this is Mr. Christopher Davenport, kind of the same rap sheet as Lacy, METH, and let's see, Class B felony, kind of the same deal here. Yeah, he had a cell phone too, it looks like. But let's see, let's look at the PCA and let's see if we can find any similarities. Here it is. During the week ending November 5th, 2023, the same detective, Sergeant Preston Gracie, was contacted by CI 2020-007 in reference to making a controlled buy from Christopher Davenport, aka Little Clifford. Okay, so these guys were incarcerated at the same time, along with 3 other individuals, if I'm assuming correctly. And what happened, in my humble opinion, is they were in the same cell block or wherever they were holding these dudes, and they got together. They started comparing notes. They thought back. Thought back in their memory banks, November 5th, sometime in that time frame, and they matched up these CI numbers together. And what else? Let's see if it's in here. Oh man, I don't think it's in here. But anyway, I know that to get an arrest in Arkansas, when they use CIs, they have to make 2 control buys for each individual to get an arrest on them. That's what they usually do. And they probably said, well, who, Mr. Lacey and Davenport got together, and I'm sure they had the conversation of who around that time frame made 2 buys from you during this week. And they thought back, and I promise you, they came up with Mrs. Strope. That's who they thought of. And it's quite frightening the way that this came to be. But if that isn't shocking enough for you, let's look at Davenport's address and Michael Lacey's address on the map, and let me just show you how ridiculous this whole thing is. Even more ridiculous how this whole thing is. I mean, let's look at these genius detectives and see the places that they took this informant, Mrs. Strope, to do these control buys. Yeah, let's take a look at these geniuses' handiwork here. So as you can see, the Lacey residence is up here. I put a red circle around it. And Davenport, 501 Ash Street, it's a 5-minute walk, people. I mean, if you're really if you're really concerned or not concerned about blowing the cover of your CI, why are you doing these buy walks in just 3 blocks apart? It makes absolutely no sense. They let this woman, they hung her out to dry. I feel so bad for the family, the aunt, Mrs. Strope herself. This is just it's absolutely ridiculous. And I blame law enforcement. I blame them. And what is strange about this whole thing, if you listen to the entire interview of Mrs. Strope's aunt, she claims that Troy was arrested in 2020, and she didn't name what kind of charges they were. But I'm going to go ahead and assume that they were narcotic charges. And you can't really tell from the picture in the beginning, but I'm going to show you a picture of Mrs. Strope, what she looked like in recent years, and it's pretty obvious that she was a victim of addiction. And I'm not trying to shame her. That's not a dig at her at all. But it's such a sad situation where people are a victim to addiction, and cops take advantage of them. And let me just show you this picture right quick, and I'll end with some closing thoughts. And if you do listen to the interview, you'll hear Troy's aunt talk about how Lacey was out of jail when he was arrested very quickly. He was released on the 5th, and allegedly, according to her, the unaliving happened on the 6th. And it just goes to show you, when you have powerful people in politics backing you up, or in government, you can get out of jail and go handle business if you have to. And it reminds me of a situation back in Idaho in 2022 when a certain person was released on a Farlow, and that never made sense to me either. except for there's only one conclusion I could come to. And if you look at Michael Lacey's rap sheet, you'll notice it's pretty long and extensive, but there's only one drug charge, and that was 2023, right before this unaliving. And I've seen it plenty of times. I know how it works. What happens is Michael Lacey was most likely an informant as well that pointed the direction to bigger fish for law enforcement, and they let him sell rugs. They let him do his thing. They didn't really bother him as long as he was giving out information and he could point to other people that they could go and make arrests on. That's how it works, especially when your stepfather is the mayor. And it reminds me of Mr. Farley, because I also speculate that Mr. Farley was kind of in the same boat there. I think he was a long time informant for LE in Moscow and surrounding areas. And I know him and Bill Thompson had a pretty good and it seems like they had a pretty good relationship, to be honest. They definitely knew each other, and he was in and out of jail constantly. He never got charged. He always got these plea deals. It's crazy. And Moscow and Arkansas, Forest City, Arkansas, you had two career informants that were working for you that got out both on a furlough of some sorts, and bad things happen. Bad things happen, allegedly. And that's just me speculating. But it's the only thing that makes sense. And the reason, I forgot to mention this, the reason I brought up those 2020 charges on Mrs. Strope, her aunt claims that though that arrest record has been wiped from the internet and she can't find it anywhere. And that's the whole reason I brought that up and showed you that picture, is because I tried to find that arrest and I couldn't find it either. And I'll put that clip in here too. So listen to that clip and decide for yourself if law enforcement is covering up something, because I definitely know they're covering something up in Idaho, and I am pretty sure they're covering something up in Arkansas too. This story should have been on the front page everywhere, but it doesn't have much publicity, and fortunately for us, the Idaho story is so crazy that it's out everywhere, and we got eyeballs on it at least, and we can see corruption in real time in that thing. But thank you for listening, and I'm going to close this out with a clip.
Just to clarify, what about that? Was it from the information you were getting from, like you said, people on the streets, that she was a confidential informant? What was it about that you think that that's what she was essentially killed over, and what was her job? What do you think she was supposed to be doing, and what was she killed over?
Okay, so Troy had three arrests.
Okay.
The middle arrest disappeared. That was in 2020. Troy, the CI number on all the papers that we pulled, my sister went into Arkansas documents of the courts and pulled all the arrests. All 5 documents of the people involved had the same CI number, 2020-007. So we have come to the conclusion that Troy was that CI for a few reasons. One, she took her child back to her husband right when that was happening and said, she'll be safer here.